knew that the United States would never live up to the obligations that were inherent in the so-called sunset clauses. Why do they know that? Because Barack Obama said so even before the JCPOA was signed. He said, because someone said, well, what happens when we come to the sunset clauses and you have to start lifting restrictions on Iran's nuclear enrichment program? And Barack said, well, at that time, we will reassess and see where we go. Meaning that if the United States didn't get what it wanted from the deal, and what it wanted from the deal were things that weren't part of the deal, they wanted Iran to walk away from nuclear enrichment. The deal allowed them to move to enrichment. We thought we could coerce them away. If we weren't going to get what we wanted outside of the framework, then we would dissolve the framework and start all over. That was Barack Obama that said this. And so the Iranians are going, all right, we like this language. And when Trump withdrew from the JCPOA, Iran said, okay, you're out. Europe's not complying. Therefore, we no longer need to comply because we're relying on, I think it's paragraph 24 and there maybe paragraph 36. I could be wrong on those two paragraphs, but the two paragraphs that allow for this to happen. Iran has complied fully with all of its legal obligations. It's 100% in total compliance with the JCPOA because the JCPOA no longer has standing because the members, the European members in the United States withdrew. Guess what happens when you withdraw from an agreement? Your opinion no longer counts. And so Europe said, well, we'd like America to come back, but meanwhile, we're not going to engage fully in the economic activities that we are obligated to do so under the agreement. So Iran went, well, you're not complying. We're not complying. Boom, that's it. And yet now this new president is saying he's willing to sit down and negotiate with the United States about how to, get the JCPOA back to being relevant. I mean, I wouldn't advise him to do that, but I guess, that, and it's a strange move given Iran's pivoting to BRICS and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, this big strategic pivot east. So what it implies, and this is, what people have to pay attention to, is it implies that there's a domestic political imperative within Iran that says we're not ready to make that big pivot just yet. That there's still an element within the Iranian leadership, because remember, all during Rafsanjani, all during Khatami, they were trying to make good with the West. They didn't want to make the pivot east. There were a lot of people saying, let's pivot to China, let's pivot to Russia, let's pivot to Eurasia. And the big players, the big economic powerhouses, and Rafsanjani is still a huge, I'm not going to accuse him of corruption, but the man is very rich, and he became very wealthy at a time when Iran was going through the post-war reconstruction boom, and suddenly Rafsanjani's family owns all the companies that are making money, and he became a very rich man owning all the good real estate, and he's still very powerful today. And there are others out there that made a lot of money, and I think they're looking at their investments and saying,